Hello everyone, I'm Mike D'Angelo with That's Entertainment, and this is my reaction video to THQ's E3 2010 presentation. THQ had a lot of titles on Showcase this year. They had a couple of new franchises, but they had a lot of new sequels. Starting with the new franchises, THQ released information for Devil's Third, which was produced by the same person who did Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive. The trailer showed off a very stylistic presentation of the game. It looks really action-packed and fast-paced. If you're familiar with the Desperado trilogy, it has that kind of feel to it. It's very supernatural. You have people running on walls, people doing things that you don't see every day, but at the same time, it seems more grounded in reality than other games like Ninja Gaiden did. If the success of other franchises like Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive have anything to say about this, it'll probably end up being very well received. You've probably been seeing trailers of this next title, HomeFront. It had a huge presentation at E3 for THQ. They had an actual trailer for gameplay, and then they also had a cinematic trailer, which was as close to you can get as trying to mimic real life as it gets. They were saying that North Korea is basically going to take over the world. The cinematic trailer was fantastic. The gameplay footage didn't reveal too much, but it definitely seems like another generic shooter from first glance. It really doesn't seem like it's anything different than Call of Duty, Battlefield, any of those games. However, if you let it saturate in your mind a little bit and you think about what it's presenting to you, it seems like they're focusing a little bit on the storyline and more of a cinematic experience than a lot of the other games. They didn't show too much of gameplay, so it was really hard to gauge what was going on, and most of what they showed was done in slow motion, so you don't really know the pace. Is it going to be quick-paced? Is it going to be more calculated? We're going to have to wait until more details emerge. The rest of the presentation was old favorites. They brought out a new Blob called Blob the Underground. I didn't play the first Blob, so I really can't say too much about that. From what I gather, there isn't too much new to this. It's obviously they have new ideas and everything, but the first game was so well received that they didn't really have to push the envelope. They just made more levels, some more wackier experiences. So I'll have to follow up on that. I don't want to give you guys false information, so I'm just going to leave it at that. They also showed Red Faction Armageddon. It takes the fully destructible environments from the predecessors and moves everything underground. You're still going to be able to go above ground and underground, but it seems like the storyline focuses more on the underground and the survivors being pressed underground. It seems like every time one of these games comes out, the series is finding its feet a little bit more, and it's more grounded in storyline. The overall experience, while pretty much the same, you're still liberating settlements as you go on. It seems like it's growing in scope. The developer is pushing for more weapons that you can create. From the trailer, it looks like it's going to continue to be impressive. THQ is pulling double duty for each of the other franchises. They have Warhammer and WWE. First for Warhammer, they showed two titles. They had first a shooter called Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine. It was hard to tell from the trailer whether or not it was gameplay footage or cinematic. It might have been a mixture of both. Either way, what they showed looked pretty impressive. The Warhammer video game franchise seems like it's growing. It looks like it's finally getting to the point where it can stand up against other huge franchises like World of Warcraft. Speaking of which, their other title was a new MMO called Warhammer 40,000 Dark Millennium. The game looks like it's going to have a massive impact, huge multiplayer component. They throw in a tactical system with this game a little bit. There's going to be flank and cover mechanics to it. For an MMO, it looks a lot more quick-paced than what we're used to seeing. There's a lot going on at one time in the trailer, and they focused fully on gameplay in this trailer. Of course, WWE is going to have releases as well. They showed off Smackdown VS Raw 2011. There isn't very much for me to say when it comes to WWE games that come out. They don't change very much, but there are some subtleties that come with these games that, for fans of wrestling, it just makes all the difference. One of the things that they were really pushing on the showroom floor this year was TLC matches. If you don't know what TLC is, you probably don't care anyway because you're not into wrestling. They also showed WWE All Stars, which has a very arcade feel to it. All the wrestlers look disproportionately big and bulky and everything like that. It seems a lot more simple and at the same time it looks like it goes over the top with things. Some of the moves that they showed just looked ridiculous. There's no way that a human being could pull that off. But I think that's the point. If you're on the cuff of being a wrestling fan, that seems like it might be the game for you just because it is more casual, it seems. As I said, THQ had a huge presentation. They had a lot of games comparable to some of the big three. These games have a tried and true fan base. If you're not already a fan of these games, it's probably just because they're not the kind of game that suits you. Except for their 2 new franchises, which look like they could have potential, could really bring people into the fold of these games. As with all the other videos, I'm just going to wrap this one up and try and work on the next one. I'll talk to you guys in a little bit.